issues. I wish him all the best.
Amish, you are mute.
Yes, yes. So I request CA Vivek Agarwal ji to start the deliberation for the today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you. At the outset, I would like to thank the conveners, CA Amish Sangoi ji, CA Deepak Madlecha ji, Aditya Maheshwari ji, Manthan ji, and other coordinators of Andheri Oshiwara CP Study Circle for inviting us to deliver a talk on TCS on sale of goods. Amish ji has taken a lot of efforts in organizing the webinar, and I'm saying this because I had a webinar on the same topic in Hyderabad, and the very next day, I don't know how Amish ji has contacted me and made sure that I take this webinar. I thank you, Amish ji, for this. And it's my privilege to address an August gathering of learned professionals of CP Study Circle. So we will be taking up the question and answers at the end. And we'll start the webinar with a short prayer of our Guruji, Sadhguru Rameshji of Purna Ananda, House of Enlightenment. I request everybody to repeat after me. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu. Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just yeah. So the topic for today's deliberation is TCS on sale of goods. I would say the title itself is confusing because it is TCS on sale of goods. But as we proceed further, we'll understand on which amount is actually TCS leviable. We will be discussing, though we have many learned professionals here, but I will be discussing the entire provision as a beginner, as a student, and we'll have a lot of mutual learning during the webinar. So first we'll understand what is the meaning of TCS in brief. What are the conditions for applicability of TCS provisions? We will be discussing a lot of examples, issues, and at the end, I have prepared a short thumb rule. By applying that thumb rule, we will be able to derive correct answer on which amount TCS is required to be collected and what would be the amount of TCS. So all this in detail, we'll have a discussion, and at the end, we'll have some discussion also, a deliberation, and through Q&A also. We will be discussing the Bayer Act, then we'll analyze the Bayer Act, we'll break it down into various words, and then we'll discuss a lot of examples for the said provision. First, what is the meaning of TCS? Tax collected at source is a tax that is collected by the seller from the buyer and deposit the amount to the account of the government on behalf of the buyer. So ultimately, seller is only acting as a mediator to collect the tax from the buyer and deposit it to the account of the government. The tax burden falls on the buyer. Now the buyer, as he's paying the tax from his pocket, will get the credit of the same in his 26 AS. So this is the overall structure of TCS. Let us start with the Bayer Act. every person. So as we all know, person includes individual, HUF, company, AOP, BOI. So every person being a seller. So what is the meaning of seller? We will discuss in the next slide. So every person being a seller who receives any amount as consideration for sale of any goods. So the first important point which comes here is this provision is applicable only on sale of goods. For sale of services, this provision is not applicable. So the seller who receives any amount as consideration for sale of any goods of value or aggregate of such value exceeding 50 lakh rupees in any previous year. So there are multiple interpretations for this. First interpretation is the value of the goods sold should be more than 50 lakhs per buyer. Second interpretation is value of the goods sold should be 50 lakhs, should be more than 50 lakhs per buyer, and the consideration received also should be more than 50 lakhs per buyer. The third interpretation for this is this provision is applicable when the consideration received by the seller per buyer is more than 50 lakhs. So we will be taking up this provision on the basis of the third interpretation, that this provision is applicable when the consideration received per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs, irrespective of the sales. So sales may happen in the current year or earlier years, but if you are receiving the consideration now more than 50 lakhs, then this provision will be applicable. Let us read further. For sale of any goods of value or aggregate of such value exceeding 50 lakh rupees in any previous year, other than the goods being exported out of India. So the goods which we are exporting, on those transactions, TCS is not applicable. Or goods covered under subsection 1, subsection 1F, or subsection 1G. These are the subsections where TCS is already applicable. This non-applicability we'll discuss at the end. So for the transactions where we are exporting the goods, TCS is not applicable. For the transactions which are already covered by TCS, this TCS on sale of goods is not applicable. Shall, at the time of receipt of such amount, this line is extremely important for us. The seller shall, at the time of receipt of such amount, when the seller receives such amount, he should collect from the buyer a sum equal to 0.1% of the sale consideration exceeding 50 lakh rupees. On the amount which exceeds 50 lakh rupees, only on that excess amount, TCS is required to be collected, not on the entire amount. Provided that the provisions of this subsection shall not apply if the buyer is liable to deduct tax at source and has deducted such amount. So first we said, if we are exporting the goods, on those transactions, TCS is not applicable. On transactions where TCS is already applicable, like motor vehicles, scrap sale, etc., then TCS on sale of goods is not applicable. Now we are saying that if on a transaction, TDS provisions are applicable, then TCS provisions are not applicable. An important point to observe here is that if on a particular transaction, TDS provisions are applicable and the buyer actually deducts the TDS, only then TCS provisions are not applicable. So in my opinion, if on a transaction, though TDS is applicable, but the buyer does not deduct the TDS, then there is a chance that this TCS provision would apply. However, both the sections would not apply together on the same transaction, because we all know the objective of the government to bring as many transactions as possible in the radar of TDS and TCS provisions is to collect the database, what transactions are happening, with whom the transactions are happening, what value the transactions are happening. Just to get the database, the government has introduced this provision. Now let us understand the meaning of seller. The definition of seller is extremely important. So seller means a person whose total sales turnover from business. So first important point here is the seller must be engaged in business. Suppose a customer sells old jewelry to the seller. Whether the customer is in business of selling old jewelry or not, we have to check. And in most of the cases, customers are not in that business. So it is a very common transaction in jewelry business that the seller sells the new ornament to the customer, and the customer, in exchange of the new ornament, pays whole or part of the consideration in the form of old gold or bullion. So for the first limb of the transaction, where the seller is the shopkeeper, retailer of jewelry, is selling the goods or jewelry to the customer, the seller is in the business of selling jewelry. So the first condition is satisfied. So if all other conditions of this section are satisfied, then on this transaction, TCS would be applicable. Now coming to the second transaction, from the point of view of the customer. So when the customer is selling old gold or bullion to the seller, the customer is not in the business of selling jewelry. So he does not fall in the definition of seller. As he does not fall in the definition of seller, in my opinion, TCS would not be applicable on that transaction. Let us proceed. So seller means a person whose turnover from business carried on by him exceeds 10 crore rupees, during the financial year immediately preceding the financial year in which the sale of goods is carried out. We will discuss this with an example in the next slides. So overall, what I want you all to understand now is, first, the seller should be in the business of selling anything, any sale of goods. Second condition, his turnover in the preceding financial year should be more than 10 crore rupees. We have understood what is seller. Now let us understand the meaning of buyer. So buyer means a person who purchases any goods but does not include central government, state government, an embassy, high commission, legation, commission, consulate, and the trade representation of a foreign state or a local authority. A person importing goods into India, the person who is importing goods into India, on this transaction also, TCS is not applicable. So on export transactions, TCS is not applicable. On import transactions also, TCS is not applicable. So a person importing goods into India or any other person as the central government by notification in the official gazette specify. So the government might specify that these persons will not be termed as buyers as per this provision. So if they are not buyer, then obviously this provision would not be applicable to them. Now let us analyze this. First, the topic itself is TCS on sale of goods. So it is very important for us to understand what is the meaning of goods. Because if we classify any transaction or any particular thing as goods, then these TCS provisions would apply. And if we classify any particular transaction or thing as not as goods, then these provisions would not apply. So it is very important for us to understand what is the meaning of goods. We all might be aware the definition of goods is defined in Sale of Goods Act and even in the CGST Act. But in my humble opinion, the Sale of Goods Act's definition would be most relevant to the current scenario. So as per the Sale of Goods Act, goods means every kind of movable property. So first we are saying that the goods are movable property other than actionable claims and money, and includes stock and shares. So shares are goods, and on share transactions, TCS might be applicable. We'll discuss whether it is applicable or not in the next slides. Growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. So basically, let us understand from this definition that the first thing is goods are every kind of movable property. So immovable properties are not goods. We have to focus on when we are classifying anything as goods, first it should be a movable property. Next. So broadly, there are two conditions to be satisfied for the applicability of this provision. First condition, let us take the example of financial year 2021. If we want to check the applicability of TCS provisions for the financial year 2021, first we have to check whether the turnover of financial year 1920 is more than 10 crore. Second condition that we have to check is for the current financial year of 2021, the sale consideration received for any goods per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs. I repeat, last year, that is financial year 1920, the turnover should be more than 10 crore. Fine. Second condition, for the current financial year 2021, sale consideration received for any goods per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs. So what is the rate of TCS? If the buyer furnishes PAN, up to 31st March 2021, the government has given COVID relaxation, as we all might be aware, and reduced the rate to 0.075%. From 1st April 2021 onwards, the TCS rate would be 0.1%. If the buyer does not furnish his PAN, then up to 31st March 2021, there is a confusion whether TCS is required to be collected at 0.75% or 1%. In my humble opinion, the relaxation was not for the case where the buyer does not provide his PAN. So taking a conservative approach, it is better to collect the TCS at the rate of 1% if the buyer does not furnish his PAN. Then from 1st April 2021 onwards, the TCS rate would be 1% if the buyer does not furnish his PAN. Now let us understand the applicability of this provision with a small example. First, For the financial year 1920, whether TCS is applicable? No, it is not applicable because it came into effect from 1st October 2020. So for the financial year 1920, we need not check anything. Coming to financial year 2021, the turnover is 8 crore. What is important to note here is the first condition with respect to the turnover of more than 10 crore is to be checked for the preceding financial year, not for the current financial year. So when we are talking about financial year 2021, the preceding financial year is 1920. So for 1920, the turnover should be more than 10 crore is the first condition. In our example, the turnover in financial year 1920 is 23 crore. So the first condition of applicability of TCS is satisfied. Now coming to the second condition. The sale consideration received per buyer should be more than 50 lakh. In our example, the sale consideration per buyer that is received is 75 lakhs. So it is more than 50 lakhs. Hence, the second condition is also satisfied. As both the conditions are satisfied, then on this transaction, TCS would be applicable. And TCS would be applicable on the amount which is more than 50 lakhs. The amount which is more than 50 lakhs is 25 lakhs. So on 25 lakhs, TCS is required to be collected at the rate of 0.075%. Now let us check the applicability for the financial year 21-22. For the financial year 21-22, first we have to check turnover of the preceding financial year. The turnover of preceding financial year is 8 crore. The first condition of the turnover being more than 10 crore is not satisfied. So for financial year 21-22, the TCS provisions are not applicable. Now coming to financial year 22-23, first condition, the turnover of financial year 21-22 should be more than 10 crore rupees. In our example, it is 20 crore. So the first condition is satisfied. Now coming to the second condition, the sale consideration received per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs. In our example, it is 45 lakhs only. So the second condition is not satisfied. As both the conditions are not satisfied, then the TCS provisions are not applicable even for the financial year 22-23. So with this, I want to draw a point that we have to check the TCS provisions, applicability of the TCS provisions on year-to-year basis. So every year we need to satisfy the conditions for the applicability, and only then the TCS would be applicable. So what are the compliance requirements in this? Same like TDS. First, regarding the deposit of TCS. So the month in which you are collecting the consideration, then from that month we have to see the next month, within 7 days we have to deposit the TCS collected. So what is the due date for payment of TCS is 7th of the succeeding month in which the consideration is received. Throughout this session, we should understand we shouldn't focus on when is the sale happening. Our focus is when is the money received, when is the consideration received. So even for the TCS payment to the government, it is 7th of the succeeding month in which the consideration is received. Then the seller will have to file quarterly statements of TCS. The due dates are in front of your screens. And the seller will have to issue the TCS certificate also to the buyers. So these are the compliance requirements for the seller. Now let us discuss a lot of examples on this. And during this discussion, I want everybody to focus on when are we receiving the consideration. कि पैसा कब आया? That is important. First, the sale is made and the receipt of consideration is also done before 1st October 2020. So sales से तो कोई मतलब नहीं है. So our focus should be on when did I receive the consideration. In this example, I am receiving the consideration before 1st October 2020. Hence, TCS is not applicable. Next example. I have done the sale before 1st October 2020, whereas I have received the consideration on or after 1st October 2020. What was our thumb rule? We have to focus on when are we receiving the consideration. So we are receiving the consideration on or after 1st October 2020. Hence, for this transaction, TCS would be applicable. Third example. When the sale also happens after 1st October, receipt is also after 1st October. Again, we focus only on the receipt as it is after 1st October 2020. TCS is applicable. Fourth scenario. Sale is made before 1st October 2020 and the payment is received in the next year. Once again, our focus should be on कि पैसा कब आया. पैसा आपको अगले साल आया. So TCS would be applicable in the next year. Consideration in kind. This is a very common transaction that we see where A sells to B and B sells to A. In the first example, which we have discussed in the initial slides of a retail jewelry, the retailer is selling new ornament to the customer and the customer is paying the consideration in the form of old gold or bullion. So though the seller is not receiving anything in money, but is receiving the consideration in kind. So even for the transactions where the seller is receiving the money in the for consideration in kind, even for such transactions, TCS is applicable. Next, will my supplier also collect TCS on my purchases? And will I get the credit in my ITR? Yes. So my supplier will also collect TCS from me if I'm satisfying all the conditions, and I'll get the credit of the same. Next issue. Is 50 lakhs threshold for the entire financial year or from 1st October 2020? So this was a major confusion before 1st October that whether this threshold of receiving sale consideration of more than 50 lakhs per buyer is to be checked from 1st October 2020 onwards, or this condition is applicable from 1st April 2020. Then the CBDT in the circular issued by it clarified that this condition of 50 lakhs has to be checked starting from 1st April 2020. But TCS is required to be collected only on the consideration that we are receiving on or after 1st October 2020. We will discuss this also with an example in the slides to come. Next, can we mention the TCS amount on the invoice? Yes. Can we issue a debit note to collect the TCS amount? Yes. So even our clients are following different methods as convenient to them. The clients can follow either mentioning the TCS amount on the invoice or mentioning only a note on the invoice that on this transaction, if the consideration is more than 50 lakhs, TCS would be applicable. and later on issuing a debit note, anyway is fine, as comfortable to the client. Next, where the amount or consideration is received before 1st October 2020, like in advance. So if the client has received any advance before 1st October 2020, whereas the sale will happen on or after 1st October 2020, whether on this transaction, TCS would be applicable. As I said, let us just focus on कि पैसा कब आया. पैसा अपन को आया 1 तारीख के पहले. So TCS is not applicable. Let us not get confused. Just focus on कि पैसा कब आया. That is the thumb rule for us. Next, advance received after 1st October. Obviously, TCS is applicable. Sale on approval. For sale on approval, until the sale is approved or until the consideration for that sale is received by the seller, there is no question of TCS. Because we know that TCS is required to be collected only when we receive the consideration. So whether it is sale on approval or not, doesn't matter. Ultimately, when the seller receives the consideration from the buyer more than 50 lakhs, then TCS is required to be collected. Now let us understand the thumb rule for it. Step 1, what we will do is, we will calculate the total receipts during the financial year. Total receipts in the sense, the sale consideration or advance that is received by the seller from the buyer before 1st October 2020. Next, the sale consideration or money received for advance or sale of goods is received by the seller on or after 1st October 2020. That is also one amount. In step 1, we'll just add up both these amounts. So we will get what? Total receipts during the financial year. Step 2, we have to calculate receipts in excess of 50 lakhs. In step 1, we got the total receipts during the financial year. In step 2, we have to calculate the excess receipts over and above 50 lakhs. Step 3, TCS would be applicable on the lower value, lower of excess amount that you have received over and above 50 lakhs and the amount received on or after 1st October 2020. Whichever is lower on that amount, TCS is required to be collected by you. Let us discuss these steps with some examples. First example, buyer is ABC Private Limited. The receipts from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 80 lakhs. Receipts from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2020 is 1 lakh only. Let us just apply this with the steps that we have discussed. Our step 1 was calculating the total receipts during the financial year. So the total receipts are 81 lakhs. Step 2 is what? Calculate the receipts in excess of 50 lakhs. So in excess of 50 lakhs is how much? 31 lakhs. Step 3. Lower of the excess amount, that is 31 lakhs, or the consideration that we have received on or after 1st October 2020, that is 1 lakh. So lower of 31 lakhs or 1 lakh, hence on 1 lakh, TCS is required to be collected. Next example. Receipt from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 12 lakhs. Receipt from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2020 is 38 lakhs. You can notice here that in the examples I'm mentioning only the receipts. I'm not focusing on sales. So if the receipts we are getting in the current financial year, though the sale has happened in the earlier financial years, even then TCS would be applicable. So the receipts are totaling up to 50 lakhs. Let us apply the steps again. Our step 1 was we have to calculate the total receipts before TCS and post TCS. It is 50 lakhs. Our step 2 was we have to calculate the receipts in excess of 50 lakhs. It is equal to 50 lakhs, so there is no excess. Step 3, we have to calculate the lower of the excess amount or the amount received after 1st October 2020. So the excess is 0 and the amount that is received on or after 1st October 2020 is 38 lakhs. So lower of 0 and 38 lakhs is obviously 0. So on this transaction, TCS is not applicable or not required to be collected. Next example. Receipt from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 30 lakhs rupees. Receipt from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2021 is 75 lakhs. Let us just apply our steps. The first step is total receipts during the financial year is 105 lakhs. Step 2, we have to calculate the excess over and above 50 lakhs. It is 55 lakhs. Step 3, TCS is required to be collected on the amount which is lower of the excess amount, that is 55 lakhs, or the consideration which is received on or after 1st October 2020, which is 75 lakhs. So lower of 55 lakhs and 75 lakhs is 55 lakhs. On 55 lakhs, TCS is required to be collected by the seller. Next, for job work transactions. For job work transactions, we know that TDS provisions are applicable. Secondly, it is a service. TCS on sale of goods is applicable on goods. What is the meaning of goods? We have discussed earlier. So this job work is a service. For service, TDS provisions are applicable. Hence, on this transaction, TCS on sale of goods is obviously not applicable. Now let us understand the implication of this provision on advances. Buyer is ABC Private Limited. Advance received from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 80 lakhs. Advance received from buyer during 1st October to 31st March 2020 is nil. As I said, our focus should be on when are we receiving the consideration. In this example, we are receiving the consideration before 1st October and nothing is being received post TCS applicability. Hence, there is no requirement to collect TCS. Second example, I have not received anything before 1st October. I am receiving the entire amount on or after 1st October. In the example, it is 80 lakhs. As per our thumb rule, we have to focus on when are we receiving the consideration. We are receiving the consideration after 30th September 2020. Hence, TCS is applicable on this transaction. But another condition that we have to check is TCS is applicable only on the consideration which is in excess of 50 lakhs. So not on entire amount of 80 lakhs, on 30 lakhs only TCS is required to be collected. Third, my client has received 30 lakhs up to 30th September 2020, received 40 lakhs on or after 1st October 2020. Just apply the steps that we had discussed. How much are the total receipts? 70 lakhs. Second, how much is the excess over and above 50 lakhs? 20 lakhs. Now TCS is required to be collected on lower of the excess amount, that is 20 lakhs, or the consideration received which is on or after 1st October 2020, which is 40 lakhs. So lower of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs, TCS is required to be collected. Next. So what are the issues in this? First issue, whether TCS is required to be collected even on the GST amount. The answer is yes. Even on the GST amount, TCS is required to be collected. So in the example that we have shown in the presentation, TCS is required to be collected on the invoice value, right? Next question. Now, as a seller, I'm receiving the TCS amount from the buyer. So whether this amount of TCS that I'm receiving from the buyer is considered as the value of the sale consideration, or as per the valuation rules of GST, whether the TCS amount that I'm collecting should be included in the value, in the transaction value for the applicability of GST. The answer is no. TCS is to be collected on the GST amount. We are collecting TCS on the GST amount, but GST is not required to be charged on the TCS amount. Next issue. How should we show the impact of sales return? For sales return, let us understand two scenarios. The first scenario is, I am the seller. I have sold and the buyer has returned some of the goods. So if the consideration that I'm receiving, or the sales return has happened before the receipt of consideration, then obviously on the revised consideration, on the new consideration, the revised consideration amount, TCS is required to be collected. Second scenario, I have made sale to my buyer. My buyer has paid that sale consideration to me. I have collected TCS on the amount in excess of 50 lakhs. I have deposited the TCS amount to the account of government. Now, the buyer comes to me and says that he wishes to do a sales return. So as per the circular issued by the CBDT, anyways, as the buyer is getting the credit for the same, no adjustment for the sale return is required to be done. Now the next transaction. Sale to and purchase from the same party. In the steel industry, this is a very common transaction where seller A and the buyer B will do intercompany transactions in the form of A sales to B and B makes sales to A. So whether for this purchase and sale transaction with the same parties, same seller and buyer, whether on these transactions, TCS is required to be collected, where the payment is done by adjustment in the books of accounts. So even for these transactions, TCS is required to be collected. The next issue is whether the transportation charges which the seller recovers from the buyer through the invoice should be subject to TCS. In my humble opinion, it is better to take conservative view for any of the issues that we face, because if we see the value, the rate of TCS is very low. Moreover, the buyer is also getting rate of the same. So whenever there is a issue with respect to on which amount TCS is required to be collected, even for the transportation charges, as the transportation charges would be quite low when compared to the actual value of the goods, it is better to adopt conservative approach and collect TCS even on the transportation charges. Next issue, actually practically when we see the threshold of 10 crore turnover in the preceding financial year or sale consideration per buyer in excess of 50 lakhs, all these are very low because turnover of 10 crore is hardly anything now. So basically, as I said, as we all know, that the intention of the government is to get as many transactions as possible in the radar of TCS and TDS. Now we all know that TCS provisions are applicable only on the sale of goods. For sale of services, TCS provisions are not applicable. So again, there is a mixed opinion on in the market that whether the seller will have to issue two separate invoices, one for sale of goods, another for sale of services. Next, when the buyer is paying the consideration to the seller, when the seller is receiving the consideration from the buyer, again will the seller have to bifurcate into the consideration that is received for goods, the consideration that is received for services. Why we have to bifurcate? We all know that TCS is applicable only on sale of goods. Now the consideration which is received against the sale of goods, which is in excess of 50 lakhs per buyer, on that amount TCS is required to be collected. With this, let me discuss a small example. Same in the case of jewelry industry. On the invoice, we'll find the sale of ornament and making charges as well. So the option to the jeweler is that he has to split the bill into the sale of ornament and making charges. If he does so, then TCS is required to be collected on the sale of ornament. On the second bill of sale of making charges, that is sale of service, TCS is not required to be collected. But here, if the jeweler wants to save himself from the applicability of TCS by splitting up the ornament and the making charges, he'll face an impact in GST, because we all know for sale of ornament, the GST rate is 3%. For making charges as a service, the GST rate is 5%. So if I'm combining both and issuing the same invoice, it is a composite supply. So in composite supply, the rate applicable to the principal supply would be charged. So if same bill is issued by the jeweler, then GST at the rate of 3% is to be charged on the entire invoice. Now, if he splits the bill on sale of ornament 3%, making charges 5%. So this decision we have to take based on industry to industry. And if the amount of service is not major, it is better to issue a single invoice and collect the TCS and pay to the government. But if we want to be 100% correct in the compliance, then if the client is also comfortable, we can split it. But in our humble opinion, if the service amount is not a major amount, it is better to leave it as it is and collect the TCS. Next issue is a non-resident selling goods from outside India to India is required to collect tax at source. We had discussed the definition or explanation earlier, where it specifically excludes any person importing goods to India. So for this transaction, TCS is not required to be collected. Next, whether TCS is to be collected on sale of immovable property by a developer. Why we are mentioning developer here? Because in the first or initial slides we have discussed the meaning of seller. Seller means who? Seller means a person who is in the business of selling goods. So if we are mentioning developer here, developer is in the business of selling the immovable property. So he is coming in the criteria of seller, because he does not, if he does not come in the criteria of seller, then obviously TCS provisions are not applicable. So whether TCS is applicable on sale of immovable property, for this we have to understand the definition of goods, which we have already discussed. So in the slide where we have discussed the definition of goods, we have stressed upon that goods include only movable properties. Immovable properties are not goods. Hence, for sale of any immovable property, though the seller is in the business of selling immovable property, as the immovable property does not fall under the definition of goods, TCS is not required to be collected, in my opinion. And the second reason is, if I am purchasing the immovable property of value more than 50 lakhs, TDS provisions are already there. So hence this transaction is out of the purview of TCS on sale of goods. Next, when we discuss the definition of goods, we stressed upon that goods includes shares. Now the question arises whether the TCS is applicable on sale of listed shares. We will understand whether TCS is applicable on the sale of listed shares. We will even discuss whether the TCS is applicable on sale of unlisted shares. So for this, again, the CBDT has clarified that if the sale of listed shares is happening and the transactions are done through recognized stock exchanges, then TCS is not required to be collected. And for off-market transactions, then the TCS would apply. So basically what we can understand is, as per the CBDT clarification, for the listed shares transactions done through recognized stock exchanges, TCS provisions are not applicable. Next, whether TCS is required to be collected on sale of unlisted shares. First, shares are goods, we have discussed. Now, if we are keeping the clarification of the CBDT in mind, then the TCS provisions would be applicable on sale of unlisted shares, because these are not done on recognized stock exchanges. Next, this is important discussion. Whether TCS shall be collected on sale of motor vehicle. In the initial slides, we have discussed that TCS for sale of goods is not applicable if on a transaction, TCS is already applicable in any other section, like 1F. So section 206C subsection 1F talks about collection of tax on sale of motor vehicle. As per section 1F, when the transaction is between the dealer and the customer, the transaction is between the dealer and the customer, and the buyer pays an amount of consideration exceeding 10 lakhs, then TCS under section 1F is applicable. Now, as per TCS on sale of goods, on the transactions on which section 1F is applicable, subsection 1H is not applicable. Let us discuss this further. As per the circular dated 8th June 2016, number 22/2016, the CBDT has clarified that provisions of 206C1F will not apply on sale of motor vehicles by manufacturers to dealers. So there are two transactions in this. First transaction is the manufacturer is selling the motor vehicles to the dealers. Second transaction is the dealers are selling the motor vehicles to the end consumers. So the first transaction is a B2B supply. The second transaction of sale from dealers to customer is a B2C supply. When we talk about section 1F, when we talk about the applicability of subsection 1F, it is applicable on B2C transactions. On B2B transactions, 1F is not applicable. So, for B2B transactions, even though it is for sale of motor vehicles, for transactions of sale of motor vehicles from manufacturers to dealers, TCS under section 206C1H is applicable. Now coming to the second transaction, where the dealers are selling motor vehicles to the consumers. We know that 1F is applicable if the sale consideration is more than 10 lakh rupees. So for the transactions which are between the dealers and the customers and the sale consideration is below 10 lakhs, then even on such transactions, if aggregate of all the transactions, though below each transaction is below 10 lakhs, if we do the aggregate, if it is crossing 50 lakhs per buyer, then the dealer is required to collect TCS under subsection 1H on that transaction. So basically, to conclude, whenever 1F is applicable, 1H is not applicable. And wherever 1F is not applicable, 1H is applicable. So for B2B transactions between the manufacturers and the dealers, 1H is applicable. Now coming to the B2C transactions between dealers and customers, for 10 lakhs, the transaction in excess of 10 lakhs, 1F is applicable. So 1H is not applicable. And for the transactions which are below 10 lakhs, but in aggregate are more than 50 lakhs, then on such transactions, TCS under subsection 1H is applicable. I hope that this is clear. Now, whether TCS is required to be collected on transaction in electricity. So whenever we have any issue like this, we have to first understand whether this transaction falls in the definition of goods or not. If it falls in the definition of goods, next we have to check whether the person is a seller or not. Third, we have to check whether the person is buyer or not as defined in the Act. If these conditions are fulfilled, then we have to check the applicability. So when we are talking about the applicability of TCS on electricity, first we need to understand whether electricity is goods. So as per the decision of the Apex Court in the state of Andhra Pradesh versus NTPC, electricity, as it is a movable property, though intangible, though not tangible, is considered as good. Moreover, as the Customs Tariff Act, electricity is goods. So electricity is falling in the definition of goods, that is for sure. But the CBDT has clarified that the transaction in electricity through power exchanges, TCS, is not applicable. Next, whether fuel supplied to non-resident airlines be subject to TCS under this provision. Again, the CBDT White Circular number 17, dated 29th September 2020, has clarified that these provisions of TCS are not applicable on the sale consideration received from the fuel supplied to a non-resident airline at the airports in India. So for the non-resident airlines which are in India, the fuel which is supplied on this transaction, the sale consideration that is received on that TCS is not required to be collected. Whether TCS is liable to be collected on sale of goods by customer. We have already discussed this. Because as per the definition of seller, the person should be in the business of selling. Here the customer, if customer is not in the business of selling, then TCS is not required to be collected on that transaction because the customer does not fall in the definition of seller. Next issue is whether the turnover limit of seller, which we are talking about, should be more than 10 crore in the preceding financial year, is including GST or excluding GST. Now for this, again, there is mixed opinion, but in my humble opinion, it is better to consider it as inclusive of GST and take a conservative approach. Next important transaction, whether the amount received as loan from the buyer shall come within this ambit. Whether for loan transaction, TCS is applicable. Our focus should be on sale of goods. Loan is not an amount received for sale of goods. Hence, TCS is not applicable on loan transactions. However, if in future this loan is settled against sales, then TCS will be applicable. So by default, on loan transactions, TCS is not applicable. Next issue, whether tax is to be collected on transfer of goods from one branch to another. We have discussed in the initial slides that there has to be a seller. What is the meaning of seller also we have discussed. There has to be a buyer. What is the meaning of buyer also we have discussed. So the two distinct parties are required for to check whether these provisions are applicable or not. So when the stock transfer is happening between one branch to another of the same PAN, then obviously there are no two distinct persons, and hence TCS is not required to be collected on this transaction. Now, whether TCS is required to be collected even on the debts which are written off. As we have discussed, the section focuses on the sale consideration that we are receiving. When the debts are written off, the seller is actually not receiving anything. When we talked about the consideration in kind, purchase and sale from the same party, there is some consideration in some form or the other. But when the debts are written off completely, the seller is not receiving anything. Hence, TCS provisions would not be attracted in my opinion. Now, if the buyer has multiple units, whether sales made to different units are to be aggregated. We know that the limit of 50 lakhs is per buyer, is per PAN base. So as it is per PAN based, it is the duty of the seller to consolidate all the sale consideration that is received from different units of the same buyer and check the applicability whether the sale consideration received from all such units which are in the same PAN is in excess of 50 lakhs. Moreover, this limit of 50 lakhs is to be checked, or it is a fresh limit every year. So every year I have to check whether the consideration that I'm receiving per buyer basis is more than 50 lakhs or not. Can a buyer apply for certificate for lower collection of TCS? Section 206C subsection 9 does not extend this benefit to 206C1H. So this certificate for lower collection of TCS provisions are not applicable to the current section of TCS. Now, what shall be the consequences for failure to collect or pay TCS? First, the taxpayer or the SSE would be termed as SSE in default. Next, if he has collected the TCS amount but not deposited to the account of the government, then same like TDS, 1.5% interest is to be paid for month or part. If he does not collect the TCS, interest at 1% per month is applicable. What is the penalty for non-collection of TCS? As per section 271CA, penalty is equal to the TCS amount not collected. Earlier we discussed what are the consequences of non-collection of the TCS amount or non-deposit of the TCS amount. Now we are discussing what are the consequences of non-filing of TCS returns. So as per section 234E, late fee of rupees 200 per day is applicable. Moreover, as per 271H, penalty could be minimum of 10,000, which could go up to rupees 1 lakh. Now, due to these provisions, what changes in business would happen of our clients? First, the client's supplier will collect TCS from the clients, which will be reflected in the client's 26 AS. Our clients will collect TCS from their buyers, which will be reflected in the 26 AS of the customers. If the client decides to charge TCS on the invoice itself, then the billing format might change. The main problem is about the compliance, because it is an additional compliance on the client as a seller to make the monthly payment of TCS and do quarterly filing of TCS statements and issue the TCS certificates. So the compliance burden is increasing. Now let us discuss some of the important points. Though we have discussed these points with lot of examples earlier, let us do a quick recap of the important points of the circular issued by CBDT dated 29th September 2020. First clarification is the section applies on receipt of sale consideration. The wordings of the circular at many places focus on the receipt of sale consideration. Second, the sale consideration received before 1st October 2020, TCS is not applicable. For sale consideration received on or after 1st October 2020, TCS is applicable. Next, the limit of 50 lakhs is to be computed from 1st April 2020 itself, but TCS is required to be collected on the sale consideration received on or after 1st October 2020. Next, if a seller has already received 50 lakhs or more up to 30th September 2020, if the seller has already received 50 lakhs or more up to 30th September 2020, then TCS shall apply on every receipt of sale consideration on or after 1st October 2020. There was even a press release dated 30th September 2020. And as per the press release, the government said that clarification on doubts arising on account of new TCS provisions. TCS is not an additional tax. TCS is not an additional tax. It is in the nature of advance income tax, because the buyer is anyways getting the credit of the same in his income tax return. So the buyer will get the credit of the same against his actual income tax liability. And if the amount of TCS which is collected by the seller is more than his actual tax liability, then the buyer would be entitled to get refund of the excess amount of TCS paid along with interest. So this was the clarification given by the government through a press release dated 30th September 2020. Now coming to non-applicability. In case of goods being sold are covered by section 206C subsection 1. So subsection 1 covers alcoholic liquor, tendu leaves, timber, forest produce other than timber and tendu leaves, scrap, minerals like coal or iron ore. So on these transactions, TCS is required to be collected under section 206C subsection 1. Hence, on these transactions, TCS under subsection 1H is not applicable. Second, 1F, which covers motor vehicles exceeding 10 lakhs in value. This we have already discussed. Where 1F is applicable, 1H is not applicable. Then 1G, wherein remittance is being made outside India and TCS is being collected by authorized dealer for the same. So for all these transactions, as specific provisions of TCS under other sections are already applicable, TCS on sale of goods under subsection 1H is not applicable. So that's it for the discussion. I thank all the members for patient hearing and will be happy to discuss this further. And I invite my father, CA Hari Agarwal ji, to take up the discussion forward. Amish ji, let us discuss with the members.
Yes. We can take question answers or Hari
First
Agarwal ji,
question answers we will take.
First question answer we will take.
Question answers we will take.
Okay. So the first question is from CA Shrikant Maheshwari. What would be the case in case of claim of treaty benefit, that is on transaction where tax is deducted at zero?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
What would be the case in case of claim of treaty benefit, that is on the transaction where tax is deducted at zero?
So for the transactions on which tax is deducted at 0%, still it is, we can say
Because
that
it is not excluded specifically. Because it is not excluded specifically here, in our opinion, it is deductible.
it can be collected, but in another way we can say that though it is at 0%, we can say that this is a transaction on which TDS is already applicable. So TCS provisions would not apply. However, to take a conservative opinion.
But one more opinion can be taken that because the treaty provisions will prevail.
Yes.
So in that case, let us wait for some time and let us get the clarification on this also.
Okay,
Next
thanks.
question.
Next question is from CA Mukund Puranik. If I get a commission out of direct sale of imported machinery to Indian customer, will commission come under TCS? Commission is not from an Indian buyer but from a foreign principal.
No, this transaction is of import. So we have discussed if the transaction is of import, then TCS is not applicable. Secondly, on commission, if we have a specific provision of TDS, so if that provision of TDS is applicable, then this provision is not applicable. If that provision of TDS is not applicable, then TCS is required to be collected. But even then, commission is a sale of service also. So that also we have to check on the transaction.
Next.
Okay, the next question is from CA Dhaval Popat. Per buyer means average turnover, or if any buyer's procurement exceeds 50 lakhs, is it applicable?
No. The limit of 50 lakhs is per buyer. For each buyer, the limit of 50 lakhs is to be checked. Whether the sale consideration that you're receiving from buyer A is more than 50 lakhs or not, whether the sale consideration that you're receiving from buyer B is more than 50 lakhs or not. So for each buyer, we have to check.
Okay. Next we can take.
Yes, next.
It's from Pankaj Kumar Gaur.
एक मिनट रुको ना यार, एक मिनट में लिख.
Hello. The next is the sale of goods as per SSE, services as per department, matter pending in advance ruling, TCS applicable provided other conditions are fulfilled. Sale of goods is as per SSE, means
When the SSC himself is claiming it as a sale of goods,
yes,
he cannot have two stands, one for the purpose of TCS and one for the purpose of classification under goods or services. So as per SSC's own version only, it falls under the category of goods and TCS is applicable.
okay, but as for the department it is a services and matter is pending in advance ruling.
But still the SSC himself is contending as sale of goods now.
Okay, okay.
So it is applicable.
Okay, same. Second thing, same by the same query, again second query from Mr. Pankaj Kumar. Goods rejected but not returned and destroyed by the buyer at his place. Is TCS applicable?
For rejection and all, we need not see anything. We have to focus on when are we receiving the consideration.
Correct.
And what is the amount of consideration that is being received.
Correct. Next question is from Sagar Shah. Buyer should be considered core GST registration or a core SSC as per Income Tax Act.
Sorry, please repeat. The voice was breaking.
Buyer, okay. Buyer should be considered core GST registration or core SSC as per Income Tax Act. Means the question is that the buyer should be considered as per GST registration or as per the Income Tax Act.
Income tax.
As per income tax.
Okay, fine. Again, the question is from.
Sorry to interrupt. So, in case many branches are selling, so we'll have to take turnover limit as pan India.
Yes, pan based.
So pan India, someone must be selling goods from Gujarat, someone must be selling from Mumbai. So we'll have to take cumulative of everywhere.
Yes, because in GST, as we know, when we take registration in different states, it becomes deemed distinct persons.
Correct.
That's a different concept altogether. But when it comes to income tax, we have to check pan India based turnover.
Okay.
Again, it is from C.A. Srikant Maheshwari. Does sale of shares applies to NR to NR transaction or NR to R? Also on issues of shares.
So first that we have discussed whether it is being done through a recognized stock exchange or not. If it is done through a recognized stock exchange, then obviously as per the CBDT circular, the TCS provisions are not applicable on that transaction.
Okay. Again, from Pankaj Kumar, TCS applicable on exchange of shares in mergers of unlisted companies.
Applicable.
TCS applicable on exchange of shares in merger of unlisted companies. In case of merger of unlisted companies.
See, one thing what we can consider here is if there is merger, whether there is a sale of business. For sale of business is a different thing. So sale of business is not termed as goods. On that transaction, TCS is not applicable. Now, when it comes to shares, exchange of shares in mergers and acquisitions, I have to check. We can drop an email on this. I'll just go through it once again and I'll revert to this.
The query can be little elaborated. The query also if it is elaborated, no?
1 minute. If Pankaj sir is there online, then he can elaborate. He can unmute himself and can ask further in detail. Okay, fine. Next
Hello?
question.
Yeah,
He's online.
Yes,
Hello.
Pankaj.
Sir, share of company in listed company we consider as in unlisted company we should consider as a sale of goods.
Yeah.
That was the point. But I think basic condition that previous year limit of 10 crore that if we consider it will be out of picture then.
Yes, yes,
the query is resolved.
yes. The other conditions have to be fulfilled as it is.
Yeah. If other conditions are fulfilled, then it will not be applicable.
Yes, then it will be applicable.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next.
Next question is from Chandresh Shah. Is TCS applicable on sale of foreign currency by FFMC authorized by RBI?
Yeah, this is a very common question which almost everybody is asking, whether the TCS is applicable on foreign currency transactions. There are mixed opinions for this again in the market. However, we may take a conservative approach and apply TCS, or we can say that this is a transaction which is not in the goods.
Goods.
So we can ignore the TCS. It depends on the transaction itself and the approach of the SSC, whether he wants to go for a conservative approach or he wants to be aggressive in it.
Okay, now
There are many lot of transactions where mixed opinions are being implemented in the market. So we are deciding based on the SSC's intention, whether he wants to go for a conservative approach. So it's better depending upon the value of the transaction also and the attitude of the SSC also.
Okay, the next question is from Aditya Maheshwari. In case of sale of immovable property existing rupees 50 lakhs, though TDS applicable, in case not deducted by the buyer, whether TCS
No.
applicable?
No, he has to deduct TDS only. Because the provisions of TDS is applicable to property transactions in excess of 50 lakhs. So it is not a choice given to the SSC.
Okay.
And moreover, the immovable property is not goods. So as it does not fall in the definition of goods, these provisions obviously would not apply. The question comes when in case of motor vehicle. So motor vehicles are movable. So if 1F is applicable, then 1H is not applicable. If 1F is not applicable, then 1H is applicable. But subject to the other conditions also, the turnover of 10 crore, 50 lakhs, and the definition of goods also. So the motor vehicle is goods. Hence TCS of 1H are applicable. In this case, immovable properties are not goods. So we have to forget about the provisions of TCS.
Okay, the last question is from Deepak Himani. Consideration received would not include the GST component thereon?
Consideration received? Sorry.
Would consideration received would not include the GST component thereon?
Included.
Yeah.
It should be included.
Should be included. On the entire invoice value, TCS is required to be collected.
Okay, fine. Now I will request CA Shrikant Maheshwari to kindly ask the further question what he had.
Yeah, Vivek ji, very good presentation. I mean, it's pretty exhaustive. I just had a question with regards to funds and share traders. So suppose if there is a share trader or a fund which is earning business income in trade of shares, that is business, and also has investment portfolio which is chargeable to capital gains. So how would we define turnover? Would it include business plus capital gains or only business? Also, if suppose the person sells some unlisted securities which are in the investment portfolio chargeable to capital gains, would TCS still be applicable?
No, the portfolio will be decided by the investor, no? Portfolio
Right, sir.
will be decided by investor in his books of accounts.
Yes, the portfolio is decided, but I mean,
TCS is applicable to the broker.
correct. But the point, my point is that if it's an investment, okay, so if he's selling an investment in unlisted securities, chargeable to capital gains, TCS should be applicable or not applicable?
I think it is applicable because that is a separate thing for classification of income on different heads. It is a different thing.
Again for this, Shrikantji, again
Because
for
suppose this car also, motor car also, if I purchase it for a personal use, then also it will be applicable. No?
Okay,
So,
because
it will be
because
applicable.
what will happen is all the FDI transactions going forward, if I mean by definition, would be subjected to this. I mean, with the TCS provisions, if what we are discussing, because I mean that's the place where there is a confusion that in
Or
FDI.
you can just send me again this little elaborated.
I will send it to you.
We will restudy the thing and we will come to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Moreover, Shrikantji, there is again for this issue also, it's a very common query that we are seeing in many articles and everybody is giving a mixed opinion. And though, as we said, that our focus should be on the business, whether the seller is in the business of doing that. So for investment point of view, again, I would say that at this point, it is difficult to conclude whether TCS is applicable or not, because we'll get definitely two opinions for the same. So again, we have to decide based on the amount of transaction or the approach that we want to take it forward. But right now, at this juncture, I think both the opinions are strongly contended in the market.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fine. Thanks, CA Vivek Agarwal ji and CA Hari Agarwal ji for taking your valuable time. As we has discussed, Vivek ji, you are busy with the social things. Then also on my request, you had given me some time. So I'm thankful to you. So now I request CA Aditya Maheshwari ji to kindly give the hearty vote of thanks.
One more thing I want to add, Amish, here is that Hariji, you must be a proud father, and we are also privileged here that you must be a proud father that aisa ki Vivek ji's means as far as professional presentation is concerned. So he's and I just saw his YouTube that link actually that channel. So it is and there are a lot of subscribers and lot of views. And in future, Vivek ji will be following your that YouTube channel also.
He is following right now only. It's a gift from the father only to the Vivek.
Yes.
Because Hari Agarwal already had discussed, or Hari Agarwal already had given the platform of 200 plus webinar in Hyderabad branch. So and all over it.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, it is all credit goes to our institute. What I repeatedly tell people that when we were a student, when we had to face these exams, very tough exams, we used to weep also sometimes, maybe most of us. But now the reward what we are getting after 30 years of practice, especially after 30 years of practice. So that I feel that we are getting more than what we desired and more than what we deserved. So the institute, the credit goes to the institute, and all of us will get this benefit. Maybe after few years, but after 30 years, I'm getting the benefit more than what I deserved and more than what I desired. So all the credit goes to our institute and the tough exams institute conducts.
Thank you. Over to you, Aditya. Aditya, over to you.
Good afternoon, all. Thanks, Amish, Deepak, for giving opportunity to give a well-deserved vote of thanks to noteworthy professionals from Hyderabad. We convey our deep sense of appreciation to Vivek Agarwal, who has taken us through the various provisions applicable for TCS on sale of goods. He has given very practical examples, what could be applicable, what could be a possible scenario in advances and sale of immovable property shares. So it was a very comprehensive presentation by him. And and all the queries at the end were jointly taken up by Hari Agarwal, Hari Agarwal, and CA Vivek Agarwal. So I, on behalf of Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle, take this opportunity to propose a hearty vote of thanks to both Vivek Agarwal and Hari Agarwal for accepting our invitation and deliberating today out of their busy schedule. So I, on behalf of Andheri Oshiwara take this opportunity to propose a very hearty vote of thanks. Also, our heartfelt thanks to the members for active participation in today's webinar. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's seminar. Thanks and enjoy your Sunday.